like, I can see Canada from my balcony at my hotel.
I think lots of Alaskans can see Canada, but sure.
Oh,
That'll
yeah,
be
that's
me.
probably true.
But isn't it the fact that like Detroit is isn't it that weird thing about like Detroit is south of Canada or what north of Canada? So
Exactly.
yeah, so it's that weird. It's like,
Oh,
wait a
boy.
minute, what do you mean Canada is south of the United States? It's like,
I
yeah.
can't even keep up with Australian time zones. We don't need to start with like.
We've never learned Australia time zones. What's funny is like only Matt knows them after 3 or 4 years of doing this. It's like I don't even know. It's Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's just like whenever I just make the whole country Sydney. The whole country is Sydney to me. It's like what
Pretty
time
much,
is in Sydney?
yeah.
I'm sure Brisbane and Adelaide will appreciate that.
Yeah.
How about is Hobart somewhere? Hobart.
I think Hobart's in the same time zone as Sydney.
Okay, good.
Don't move
Yeah,
any.
because they're
further,
they're south of Melbourne, and Melbourne
Yeah.
and Sydney are in the same time zone. So that's like at least half the country has the same time zone.
All
please don't
I
move.
know is I'm gonna get it wrong, but I know that Courtney Barnett line that like I'm from Hobart, you're from Adelaide, which I think that's I don't know supposed to be Mars and Venus or
Is
something.
that like star-crossed lovers?
Yeah, exactly. Are those different
Star-crossed lovers
towns?
on the wrong side of the planet? What?
I mean, Hobart's like a tiny like podunk town, right? As we would say.
I think
Isn't
it's
it
about
tiny.
I think it's like 200,000, maybe
Yeah.
100,000.
That's pretty big. That's big dunk.
Big dunk. Oh, now I have to look. Hobart population.
Is your daughter unhappy, Cote, with the podcast?
Yeah, it's 200,000.
Always.
Always.
I was doing an internal sales thing today, and my daughter came in right next to me, and she's like, "Ah, ah, 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 ah." But that's okay. Yeah.
It's the new work from home policy. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm always like, and you know, you got to be quick. You got to be like, oh, she has a lot of opinions too that she might share.
She's a natural salesperson.
Yeah, she's giving you the pitch right now. You're gonna find out you're gonna buy something here soon. Call it procurement.
She always be crabby.
That's right.
We'll take 2, whatever it is. We'll take 2 of them.
Yeah. She's like, I got to go take a big shit in my pants here. So can we wrap this up?
I think I've heard that in sales meetings.
Oh boy.
That might even be the motivational kind of thing. Like, you know, look them in the eye and never mind.
Tell him you got to take a big shit.
I don't have time for this. Are you gonna buy?
I forgot to bring wipes. I got to go to the Walgreens.
Okay.
You know, someone
Is that too
posted
far? I mean, I don't know. This is my life. No, not all of it,
But
but
you know, someone posted in the Slack one of those like I'm sure you've either been a part of them or seen them. You know, like the super intense, like kind of like football coach / ex-military
Oh, yeah,
person,
yeah.
where they're doing the chanting about making like it's kind of like right on the edge of that boiler room, kind of, you know, like Glenn Ross kind of. And it's like, so you kind of forget. Sometimes I always forget. It's like, oh, that is kind of based on reality. Like people do that. Like when I see it, it's like, oh yeah. It's like. And always at the end, I'm always like, you know, it's really just going to depend on mostly on the product. That's what I always think of. When they finish yelling, I'm like, if you got something good,
so. Yeah.
people will probably buy it. If it's not good, like all the yelling, it's not going to work that well.
So,
It's not, you know.
So I'm on the market for a new car, and you know I'm going through the carsales.com and
Hold on, I feel like this would be good. Should we start? This sounds like a good story.
Let's
I feel
do
like
it.
Matt buying a car seems like a good opening.
Well, then you're gonna have to find a segue to get back to sales because I don't know.
I don't know if you've
Or-
listened to this
or am I doing
podcast.
the
I don't
cold
think we
open?
need to. We don't need to get back to
Matt
sales.
Ray, I don't know if
You
you've listened to this podcast before, but finding a segue will be no problem. We'll
Okay, do we
figure
want
it
to
out.
talk about anything else? Do I have the cold open? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, you
Well,
do it.
Coach, you can do it, or Coach
No.
can set you up, whichever way.
Let's freak them. They'll be like, "Holy
All right.
shit, is this the right podcast?"
All right, that's good. That's good. All right,
Okay,
just
what
remember
about-
we need an
what are we
ad break,
talking
and
about
then we
then?
can. You guys good with the rest of these topics?
I don't
Yes.
know.
Every I like this every week. It's like, what are we talking about? Every week, it's like, I don't know. There's a whole document that's been out there for like a day and a half, and all the topics are in there. But it's like, what are we talking about? I don't know.
I'm good.
Like, is
I
there any
appreciate
idea?
the
Like, is
document.
any idea? Go ahead, Matt. I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
I appreciate the document,
Mm-hmm.
but you know it's meant to be there as a conversation starter for us. And
Oh, yes.
when I look at NTT buying Postlight, I don't have a conversation there, and I need you to
Yeah.
tell me like this is why well, this is what we're talking about.
You're what you're telling Brandon is this is like the sales deck you get from product marketing.
Okay.
It's a conversation starter.
Let's like literally do it. Okay, Matt. Like I'm
That's
gonna
what I
treat you like a
want.
salesperson.
I need
I'm gonna
that
literally
conversation.
let's just pause for a minute, Matt. Like read the next line. Okay, Paul Ford and Richie, founder of Postlight, right? They sold it. It's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They sold it and they're starting a new company. Oh, and then what kind of things can we talk about? Like, well, like look at the 5 bullets below. It's like, that's kind of interesting. Is this a vanity project? Is this sort of like a developer building a monitoring tool? Like there are some things that we could kind of like riff on and think about it. Like literally it's in the document. So does that make sense? Like is
Also they sponsored an episode once.
Even better. That's another great segue. Like remember, like, oh, we got them bought and things like that. It's like literally right there. So there, I mean, in the sales training, it's like, are these slides not good enough? Should I build them in a different color? Have you seen someone else do it in a different way?
I'm still not excited about it.
It's like awesome. It is like sales training.
And didn't we talk about Google Cloud Next last week?
We did not talk about these 2 things, which I thought were interesting.
Okay,
So
you wanted to bring them back. Gotcha.
Dual run.
But you can also edit the document. That's what's amazing about it. Like you can put things in
know
it too,
that.
right? This is another part of it that's like fantastic. It's collaborative.
I hear you.
What you got to do, Matt Ray, is you got to set us up using HackMD. Did you ever look into that, Brandon?
I did. I don't know. It wasn't as easy to cut.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Yeah.
All right. We could talk.
I was gonna say something, but I've totally forgotten now. So let's
All right,
do
Matt's
it.
buying a car. Whenever you're ready.
Hold on, I'm starting up the Twitch so I can comment on myself here real quick. Okay, now I'm ready.
Not so easy, huh?
Okay. So unfortunately, I've kind of gotten on the market for a new car without a lot of planning. Right, the car passed inspection last week. The mechanic said, "Hey, you might want to be buying yourself a new car in the next year, so you can avoid rebuilding the transmission or something or other." I'm not a car guy, and then my car decided like I don't need a turn signal, and it's probably just broke right off. And the car it's drivable, but you gotta like Jimmy. I don't have a screwdriver in there yet, but it's a very laborious process. Yes, it's a laborious process. So got a rental car and decide. Oh, and it's a $700 repair on a car that's maybe $3,000 or $4,000. So I was like, fine, time to buy a new car. So I hit up the car sales website and start searching for cars. And this is my interaction with the world of sales again, which, as you know, I'm a huge fan. And so I put in, hey, I'm interested in this car, and within 30 seconds of the website hitting I'm interested, I get a call. And the guy's like, oh, man, they're all the same. And they're all the same in like terrible bad ways. We'd love to have you come in, and all the reasons you should come in immediately and not talk to their competitors, or because they're in a kind of commodity market. There are a lot of choices. But then I ran into this other site that is kind of trying to do the they're not CarMax, they're Karma, and they don't have a showroom or anything. They just deliver a car to your house, and if you like it, after 7 days you pay for it. And seems a little nuts. So we'll see how this plays out. But I probably have to buy a car this weekend.
That's like the Luke Kanice dream car salesman thing. Did you ever read that piece he wrote like several years after like leaving Puppet, and he was like, enterprise sales, what the fuck? Except he doesn't talk like that, but that was Karma's a good name. Now Matt Ray, I think had you downloaded a white paper or attended a webinar when you were buying this car?
No, but you better believe I'm on their mailing list now. Every day I'm getting their stock inventory updates.
What about text? Yeah. That seems like the new things in car dealerships.
Oh my
like
God.
Texting.
My phone blew up. I got so literally I hit submit, and within that 30 seconds of submit to call, I get a text telling me a call's inbound. I get an email telling me thanks for my interest, and then I get, I guess, the day's newsletter of other cars that are like the one I just inquired about. So,
Now, before you
I'm
actually
not even a
entered-
hot lead.
No, but like when you entered your information, because that seems like the distinction. Like, what was your mentality? Because like I feel like when I've done this in the past or when I've entered into it, it's like no. At the moment I do it, like I'm ready to I'm ready to receive phone calls. I have a number in mind. I know like the make, the model, and all that. So it's literally they're calling and I'm just immediately trying to negotiate. Like I'm looking for this, this, and this. I want to pay this, and it's just like because it's almost you have to have like you're like walking into a cage match. You have to like be mentally prepared of like, are you? So it sounds like you weren't at that level. You're just
no. I was like, I was at the level of when I hit submit, my regret levels double.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, oh, here we go.
Oh, like, are you actually ready to buy? It sounds like you're ready to buy now, right?
Oh, I have the money. Yeah.
So it sounds like that part, like you're fully qualified
to buy a car.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm ready to go, but I don't want to go. Right? I don't want to go through this process. I don't want to buy a car, but I have to buy a car. Oh. So
I feel like
that's like wait, Brandon.
This is what it's at.
Can you negotiate on used car sales? I mean, I guess you can. It makes sense.
Well, it depends. Like we just recently bought a car. Like this last round, when we bought a new car, there was no negotiation. But I knew that. Like I had kind of done all my research. It was just like there aren't that many cars. Take this or leave it.
Yeah.
And that part I got. Now we sold a car. Now we sold one just ourselves, which is like at the first people were like it's crazy, but it's actually worked out really well because there's so few used cars that and people did try to negotiate. So like we set a price and then we gave them like I think a few $100s, but we still felt like we got a much better deal. So but that's actually doing a direct, like it seems scary, but it was actually very simple. Like that's like literally like me buying a car from you. Nobody in between. It's like they came over, the buyer, they drove it around themselves, right? We just let them drive it around. And then
how do you negotiate around it doesn't have a turn signal?
Oh, I think it's just like a house. You just be like, well, what's the repair for that? That's probably like, I don't know, $300-$400. So that's what I would say. It's like $400
part
off.
Online. I don't know what your labor costs are, but the part is $200.
Yeah, and just come up with that. Yeah.
And you can seal it by you seal it, Matt Ray, by saying like, I'm going to throw in the screwdriver for free.
Well, you can also just like, I think you can broadly lump it into, like, what is it? Like pristine, good, fair condition, right? Like you're telling someone, you're like, it's in, but now you could obviously be subjective. Like fair condition can mean like a couple dings or like it has a screwdriver as a starter.
It doesn't get any fairer than this car.
Or you could say like, I'm just going to keep this to give to my daughter. She's going to be driving.
We need the screwdriver.
Listen, if we learn anything about sales, like you don't say truthful things. You say stuff to like close the deal, right? Like, it's got to be truthful, as in it's truthful after they acquire the product, so you can get your ARR and everything. But I don't think there's ARR or CACs or anything when it comes to cars. This is straight up old school salesmanship. There's no TLAs. It's just like, do you have the money or you don't have the money? That's it. No, done. And so therefore, you could just throw in the screwdriver for free. And I don't know, maybe you actually will have your daughter drive it. Like, how old is she?
She's 15.
Yeah, well, that's legal in Australia, right? So you can, get around.
Not quite, but yeah, we're getting there.
Well, my other question was, now, do you have, like, it sounds like you might have, like, a typical Australian setup where, like, when you need to go driving, there's, like, a pyramid of steering wheels, and you go, like, grab one of them, and you stick it on the car, right? The type of car you're driving?
No, it's just a regular old car.
I just always assume that's the case.
All right. Good. All right. This week's sponsor, it's a podcast. So for everyone listening, you should go check out the Mac Geek Gab podcast. And just decided to say that in ad copy 3 times. Woo! That's difficulty getting that one in. So there you go. Check them out. Tell your friends. Actually, you don't tell them anything. They just want you to go subscribe. So go subscribe in your favorite podcast player.
Mac Geek Gab.
Check it out.
Mac Geek Gab. That's like Gabbo.
Wait. Does this mean this mean we can't talk about Ventura?
No,
we don't want to step on their feet.
No, we can go as deep into Ventura, if I can say it. And that's going to be another hard one for me to say, as we want. Ventura
Boulevard. Do you think they're going to license that Sheryl Crow song?
I'm trying to think, how does it
That's
go?
Santa Monica Boulevard.
What's I was gonna say, I don't remember. Was it Ventura? Is Ventura in a song? That'd be
That-
hard
well,
to have in a song.
That's Las Vegas.
Even better, they should just hire her to redo it to say Ventura Boulevard.
Now that they could probably do. Right?
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, they bought that whole YouTube album. Like, what's one song? It shouldn't be a problem.
yeah, and they made everyone mad.
I don't know. It's been a lean year for
everyone
Apple.
freaked out about
Oh yeah.
getting the free album. It never seemed like a big deal, but I guess it was at the time.
Well, it just kept showing up. It was annoying, but anyhow. All right. Well, I saw in the news that yet again, the software-defined talk ad buying worked out for a company. Our, as like the people over there at Postlight, which of course is Paul Ford and all of his friends. I just, as always, I note I always enjoyed his writing. Nowadays,
F-Train,
when I
isn't
encounter
it F-Train? Isn't that
exactly
his handle?
And so that's fantastic, right? He had the last thing I remember reading from him that, I mean, there's been other stuff, he has a newsletter, but I thought was like, that's perfect, is he was talking about how in his newsletter how he had taken his two kids, he lives in, like, I don't know, Brooklyn or some appropriate place like that, and he had taken his kids across the bridge to, like, go to Manhattan for something fun. And he was like, took them a lot of convincing. And so I ended up having to negotiate having them go. So they have gained more time on their iPad. We got hot dogs and cookies. And in exchange, I was able to take them to a festival to have a good time. And that's basically the deal that I had to do with them. And I thought, like, isn't that just the way kids always are? You're trying to, like, do something nice for them, and you've got to, like, pay them to have a good time and all of that. But anyways, it looks like NTT Data is buying them, which reminded me.
It's all done. It's all.
Oh,
done
yes,
deal.
yes. Yeah. I guess it's not like a big enough deal that they need to get, like, EU approval or anything like that. But, it reminded me of, NTT Data is different than Accenture. But you remember Accenture bought, like, one of Worley's companies? That was thrilling. I always wonder how that turned out. That was many years ago. I guess the idea is, you get some of that some fun digital design stuff up in the NTT Data. Now, Brandon, you know what's going on in the global outsourcer world. This kind of stuff. Who is NTT Data?
Well, I mean, I think they're, one of, like, many potential, I guess I think of, like, a large, data center provider and things like that. But I think NTT, I have to look this up, but I think they also, like, everything in Japan, I think, is a big conglomerate, right? So I think they also bought, I don't know if it's this specific entity. They bought Indeed, though. Like, there's a company, the job search engine is owned by, like, a really big Japanese thing. And so it makes sense. I guess, to me, it's sort of like, them buying Postlight is just a little bit of either probably like a hiring talent, basically just acquiring talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I'm sure they have clients that want to, like, have, if you will, the most cutting edge, the best, if you will, best thinkers in building out, products and doing projects. So that part I think is interesting. But the part that I thought was even more interesting is, like, okay, so Paul and Rich were the founders of it. Looks like they have really stepped back from it, and they were already in the middle of doing that, right? They handed over the reins to I think it's Gina Trafani, once of
she was the life
hacker, right? And now
founder,
she's the CEO, and so
all right.
So they're off running that, and I think her team is doing that. So, but what I think is interesting is I got this note, because I'm on the mailing list, right? That says that Paul and Rich are going to launch a new service called I guess it's abroad.io. And it was like, they're basically doing a big launch, and they invited people in New York City to come by and see it. So one, I want somebody from the software defined talk community to go to this. But I just thought it was interesting because, like, so there's no information on the actual product other than it says here, it's just basically going to solve problems around collaboration. Right. And as they kind of allude to, like, it's a mashup, and I'm reading almost verbatim, best of Slack, Airtable, Google Sheets, Dropbox, and similar tools. So, and I think this is just interesting because I think it's sort of like we all want to solve the problems that we encounter the most. Like, I always think of Coach A, like, your dream is to build, like, the perfect note-taking app, maybe, you have some specific things you want.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Matt, I'm sure you have some pet projects. I've talked about calendars, whatever, right? There's some problem in all of our lives that you're like, man, I really think people need to do it my way, right? Which is often the road to absolute failure, right? It's like assuming people want the thing that you want is like almost always a bad idea, I think. But I just think it's interesting here. So like what I just thought it'd be interesting, like a first take on this is like, they've done this acquisition. They clearly have had frustration around, I'm just gonna call it collaboration, and they're gonna set out to fix this. So if they came to us just looking for advice, like we're gonna launch a new collaboration set of tools. And maybe we'll start with you, Matt. Like, what would we tell them? What advice would we tell them? Like, don't do it. Would we give them advice, or would we say, yeah, go for it? It's a great idea.
Matt Ray is flabbergasted
Yeah,
by the possibilities of what you could be doing. I mean, I think what I would tell them is like, you gotta fork your decision process here to I mean, I'm over contextualizing the answer here, but like one, you got to decide, do we want to fix the beast from within? It's a risk. You won't be able to do anything, but you're going to have a bigger effect, right? Like, I think we cite it every now and then. I don't know what Javier Salter and his team did. But they went in there and they like did some important work, right? Like they bought their Acompli app in there, and if you use the Outlook app, it's kind of like Acompli, and it had evolved. And so I think they really did something to evolve like the big gigantic thing along there, right? Or because basically, if you go solve the beast, you're going to have to like invest in some SSO right off the bat. So that's going to be a major product management decision. Or you go down the whole like product-led growth thing, which means you're going to be selling to a bunch of small shops and departmental things, and that's where you just like you can go crazy solving these issues here. But I think I almost feel like, and maybe at first when you're listing all these things, I was having a very negative reaction to like all this stuff. But maybe what they want to do, what I would recommend is, there have been 2 goes at doing this. One, boy, I keep remembering these ancient Austin things. 2 that I know of. So there used to be Spanning Sync that Charlie Wood started. And the whole deal with Spanning Sync back then was that like you got all your Google contacts and your Google like Drive and all of that, and it doesn't really sync into Apple World. So what if we just we made a service that syncs between all your Google stuff and your Apple stuff, like way long ago, right? And then they found out eventually that what was valuable is to go to large companies and have a way of backing up your Google stuff. The old like, sure it's in the cloud, but what if the cloud goes down, right? And then you need to have,
or what if Google shuts it down?
Yeah. And so like I used Spanning Sync long ago to like sync up all that stuff, and it was great. So maybe, and the other layer here out of collaboration is like basically if you look at TaskTop, what TaskTop does, now owned by PlanView, I guess also in Austin, is they look at all this like project management goop and Atlassian, and then they like suck all the data out of everything in your software development lifecycle. And then they normalize it, and then they spit it back out to everything. So it all syncs up, right? And maybe if you took all these different applications and you're just like, what we're going to do? We're not going to build a new layer on top of it. We're just going to synchronize all the shit across it and just make sure that it kind of like has a way of working with each other. Because what we don't need is like another goddamn application. Right.
That's you're going like you went, and I think your path is sort of the enterprise path, but it's also the path to money. It's like, hey, don't try to reinvent the new way of doing this. Like, if you will, integrate into the ecosystem, which I think is very much like the things that we talk about all the time. But I do think the direct corollary would be.
I mean, they're not going to do that. Let me be clear.
No, I agree. I agree. But I think the direct corollary would be 37 Signals, which started as a consultancy company, right? And then they built Basecamp, and then they transitioned to just being it. And I don't know, like, Basecamp, I used it a few times, mostly driven by like design teams that wanted to use it. It was fine, but it was I did find it, I never found it like useful outside of a very small project, right? And also, there's people that really, really liked it. So we just kind of used it because they wanted to use it. I never personally found like, I want to carry Basecamp into anything else. So that's what I think is going on here. And it's like, I guess it's not bad. I mean, Basecamp is still, I know they've even branched out.
Supports the whole company. They changed the name.
Yeah.
Obviously it's making them money. They're still talking a lot.
Yeah. So then, and they did Haymail, right? So that's their other thing. And so it's like, okay, I mean, that can make sense. So maybe if that's the goal, and maybe that would be the question to ask like Paul and Rich would be like, well, what's your goal here? Is it like a niche based tool for collaboration that's really, geared around consulting, and that would, makes total sense. Or are you trying to really take on, all these things? But the fact that they list all of these other things in their description of it, right, is interesting to me. It's like, yeah, well, they clearly know who they're going to be competing with, and like all these tools exist. And I don't know. I just think, to me, it's like, I don't know. I guess it teeters on that edge of like vanity project. Like, hey, you've got money. Like, why not try to build it? Versus like, no, we're really, because the other takeaway you can take away from like having started something is like, hey, you know how hard it is to build something and how hard it is to vet out problems. Don't pick a problem that's close to you. Go search out problems that are really pervasive that maybe you don't know about, right? That would be another way for them to come up with an idea. But I don't know. I'm interested to watch.
Is there even a lot of money here? I mean, that to me, that's the thing. Is like, I could see you getting a decent number of subscribers, but it's a crowded market and there's a lot of competition. You can't charge that much for it because it's a crowded market. There's a lot of competition. It's an opinionated product and you're not going to meet everyone's opinion. So it screams vanity project. I mean, or not vanity project, lifestyle business, right?
I mean, see, this is where having a little bit of celebrity helps, right? Like, I remember,
absolutely.
Like, when Slack was starting, it's like, oh, it's that Stuart Butterfield thing, right? Like,
or
like,
hey,
or the Hay thing. And so, like, it's good to have, some notoriety to go into this, because you don't want to be like, oh, it's a collaboration suite that really takes advantage of the synergies between Airtable and Google Sheets and like so forth and so on.
When I put that product out, when Raymail comes out, nobody cares.
And all of that cynicism said, right? Like they had well, I'm sure Postlight still does, but they had a few little like tiny applications, like something to make like a calendar and things like that, right? And I would use those tiny apps every now and then, and they're like, they were nice. You could tell that like,
I think out, right? Yeah, they really small problem really well, right?
Exactly, and that comes from the people who develop them, use them, right? And so like you could imagine being in a consultancy, all these things they list. There's like all these tools as a consultancy working with other similar sized companies or large ones that you just have to like work with. And so you have firsthand experience of like basically the cross organization collaboration stuff, which what they don't tell you in the big EULA meetings for your collaboration stuff is all those problems exist inside large organizations as well. Because they're basically like just a bunch of small organizations and consultancies working with each other with their different formats. So, chances are high, maybe they'll come up with something new and interesting, which would be exciting. Well, we need all the help we can get.
I was going to say, if someone does go to the meeting in New York, I guess I would ultimately like to see, and maybe it's more a question around their pitch deck, if they're raising money for it. It's like, is the outcome, are they trying to like draw an analogy to like Slack or Atlassian, right? Like Jira, like, hey, we believe we've, unlocked the next big thing. Or what's the one from the Facebook company founder? I forgot the name of that product. Anyway, that's really big too. It's like, Sana, right? Is that what they're going for? Or is it more like we were saying before, it's like Basecamp or whatever, a much smaller thing. So I guess it's really kind of like success will be determined by their incoming aspirations. And so I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens there too.
Well, I like that they have the word workflow in it. I'm into that. I think if you see workflow, you're just a few years away from writing Batch Job, and then you're going to be solving the real problems.
That's where
the real money is. I love
Batch Job.
Well, meanwhile, I'm sure they experience this, and we have. It looks like I didn't go check on the research, but I think the whole commentary around quiet quitting is over, right? We're kind of done with that, and then we had the backlash on that, which was I think quiet firing was a funny response to that. But it looks like studies show, I don't know what these studies are, that in America, because of less commuting, because of remote work, we've gotten 60 million commuting hours back in aggregate, not per individual. And so it does seem like I think this is one of those things that's representative of the executive culture at work, right? Whereas as we've explained many times, maybe just due to like management styles and whatever, and also the fact that many executives just like work all the time, so what do they care? Like they don't necessarily see the value that comes from working remotely, the trade-offs, if you will, right? And I don't know. I remember my dad, before all of this era that we currently live in, because he's dead and lived in the past. But like, he would drive like 40, 60 minutes a day between between IBM, which for those people new to Austin is where the domain is now. And so he would drive that long all the way up to Georgetown, and it did seem pretty crazy. And so almost from a worker's perspective, if I were to propose to any worker, how about you get paid exactly the same and you get 2 hours back of your life a day, a work day? I think the worker would be like, sounds awesome, right? Because the thing is, this is what the executives who want you to be in the office don't tell you. They don't pay you for those 2 hours. Those are like that's unpaid labor that you're doing there. And so really, I think maybe the spreadsheet we need to make is that if you're working from home, you're getting, this is the kind of stuff you would do in an enterprise software sales thing in a spreadsheet, just kind of making up numbers here. But I think basically the worker is getting 2 hours payback of their time. But and then let's discount the time, like, because this whole idea that like you should value your time on an hourly rate based on what you get paid is like kind of stupid. But let's discount it down to like half, and then you're probably set there.
And it's not even that big that many people. When you take 60 million people or 60 million hours, and you think, people are, if we assume people were commuting 5 days a week and now it's 0, that's only like 200,000 people.
Wow.
If they're
is
driving
that math right? Yeah. So basically, this is the population of Hobart is what we're looking at here.
But I do think, we talk about digital transformation so much. I do think, it's just a great little nugget. It's like, I was trying to think of like where we'd started. So I looked up, WebEx was founded in 1995. So you can kind of say like WebEx, obviously email existed before, some version of chat, IRC existed before, and then we'll, kind of like file sharing and things like that. So basically, since we've been working on this problem for a while, but say just pick 1995 as the starting point. So you could say, I don't know, roughly 25 years, there are all these online collaboration tools and all forums have been created. And it was like, in a weird way, the pandemic sort of like revealed, it's like, okay, what would that result in? Well, 60 million commuting hours saved. And it's like, that's pretty awesome, right? I mean, I don't know if you think of it that way, but it's like, that is a
good for the
awesome thing for everybody, right?
Oh yeah, good for the environment. I would, yeah, and that maybe not so good for when my dad was driving, as I think I've noted over the years, he would. I was with him, so the inventory increased by 1 on one of these things. I'll let you guess which one. Although with my dad, who knows? But he would always buy a tall boy in a brown paper bag, and then a sausage wrap from Red's gas station. So I think Red's gas station is going to be suffering here, but maybe that's for the better.
And our good friends, the car dealers, right?
Oh, the car dealers. They're going to be more high pressure, Matt Ray, or maybe they're going to be the sales will require so much effort and be so difficult that they're going to be very specific about how qualified this buyer is, and they're going to ask you if you commute to work, right? And if you don't have the commuting to work, they're going to be like, I don't have time for this. We're going to kick this back to the funnel feeders and tell them they need to
challenge your sales model. Like,
we only need qualified leads.
To solve. Yes.
Yeah. And so maybe that'll.
I want to help you, but you don't even need help.
Yeah. Have you maybe you can improve your life if you commute to work. I want to challenge you with that idea. So, well, that's good to know. I think it also means that at least I have been benefiting for a long time from not having to commute.
Although it does leave out the question, I guess, on this whole thing is like, it does seem like the most articles I feel like we read about people want to come in back to the office, and maybe this is just because like, and it's a little bit of a bubble. It's like, I just feel like the tech companies are the ones I always like hear about, like so and so trying to get companies back in some kind of tech company. So it is sort of interesting that like the companies that made all of this technology possible, right, seem to be the ones like at times that are at least most vocally opposed to like continuing to do the remote stuff. Like even at Google Next.
But that's what I like is for every company that's like like Apple's like, oh, everyone needs to come back to our fancy new office. You have others that are like, selling the buildings. We're done. We're going full remote. You know, and
True.
for
I mean, there
everybody
are
who's
like plenty of those too. I'd say, but
Yeah,
it is funny.
yeah.
Like when Google, like, you know, they launch two things that I saw last week. It was like one, they launched like, you know, some updated stuff to their like online like Google Meet, which is fine, which is good. And then the other one was like they had
We're
these
so excited.
their what was it? They had like these like private booths. I don't know. Some of it, there was like pictures. Like there's like these kind of like private booths you could go in to do video conferencing.
Like
So they're making like a big
VR
deal out
meeting
of it.
things.
Like, but you know, they're a company that's sort of trying to get people back to the office too. So it is a little. I don't know if hypocritical is the right word, but it's just sort of. It's just always interesting. It's like, you know, are you doing what you say, right? It's like you're building all these tools. But then, yeah, exactly. It's like kind of back to the car dealer, right? It's like, well, you don't even drive this car. You don't even have these features. Like, why do you think I want them? So I don't know.
I don't want to talk to a car dealer who doesn't commute at least 3 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the truth. It's like you don't even have a car. Like, what's going on there? So I don't know. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it's interesting.
Riding a bicycle.
It'd be cool. Remember they had those. People don't bring this up in this discussion of the metaverse, but maybe Google still has it. But remember they had those like cardboard VR glasses that you could just like put your phone into. Maybe they could, whoever worked on that for them, they could do that for like work at home video booths. You just get shipped like kind of an IKEA flat pack of cardboard
box.
and you pop it up and like, you know, there's like you can put your Chromebook in there and
You're
like
no kids, this is daddy's meeting for it.
Yeah, and I gotta say my kids would love that. I would have this big cardboard thing in here, and they would be like, "Now, Dad, you're always telling me that we can't keep all that those cardboard boxes from Amazon, but it looks like you're doing that." And to your point, Matt, right? It had to be like, no, this is for my work.
You bring up an interesting question. Like, I guess, you know, Meta's spending like 10 billion on the whole metaverse initiative. It's like, man, talk about all in would be like, nope, we're selling the offices. Everything is now done. Like they do all of their work in the metaverse, right? Everyone gets the new headsets, the new Oculus. It's not Oculus, whatever it's called now. That would be, wow. That would be, talk about an all-in bet on a technology. That would be okay. Let's see you do it, right? I mean, that'd be crazy.
We're gonna miss them when they're gone.
Yeah, the ultimate dog fooding. They should do that. I think that is that's like a Professor Scott what's his face take right there. It's
Galloway.
Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna stop shorting this company when they move totally into the metaverse. I think would be. I think he could go for that. Well, now speaking of Google Cloud Next, there's two items I think that we left hanging from last week, Brandon. That you noticed. What are these two items that you wanted to pull over to this week?
Yeah, well, just too, like, I just thought, you know, sometimes talk about Google always wanting to like maybe change like how people do things. And I thought both of these were kind of stuck out to me as they're sort of, I don't know, I viewed them as very pragmatic. So one of them was dual run on the mainframe side, right? Which was their ability to, instead of like, you know, most people would say like, hey, you know, rebuild your mainframe application, rebuild the monolith into, you know, some type of cloud native application. But in this case, they're just going to let you, if you will, take the application, run it on their mainframes, run it in, you know, if you will, in staging for as long as you want. And then slowly, as you kind of get confidence in it, if you will, eventually turn off your mainframe and let everything run on the mainframes hosted in Google Cloud. So I just thought it was like very, like, it's just very simple. It's not like
questions though.
Well, I guess my whole point is saying, obviously I haven't done it, so I can't say it, but I said most mainframe modernization pitches I'm either a part of or I see require a lot of change, right? Whereas this is sort of like, hey, we're not going to try to take all that COBOL and redo it. We're going to help you move the workload and then let you get off the mainframe, but you don't have to do the modernization. So very pragmatic, simple to understand. I'm interested to see how it takes off. But Matt, you have some questions.
Well, I mean, am I missing, like, I don't see IBM listed as the partner, right? So are they just moving the workloads and leaving the mainframes behind? I thought you said that they had their own mainframes that you could transition to. And then I was like, are they emulating mainframes or are they doing workload
No, I mean, I think they've got, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research now that you asked me some hard questions, but like, yeah, my understanding is like, you can basically, you know, move it over and run it like without making any changes. So that to me is just like, it's like I said, simple to understand. And like, it seems like, you know, it's just like, I guess some version of the Strangler pattern, if you will. It's just sort of like, yeah, just run it right over here. And when you feel like it's ready to be turned off, you can do it. So I like it. I like the idea, at least.
Right.
I think this is services. I think like, cause Amazon partnered with is it Tata or HCL to do like all the migration of mainframe workloads to AWS. I think this is Google just offering it as a service as well. I
So
don't think they actually have mainframes in the building.
Oh, come on. Sure. They got to have some. They went down to that San Jose Computer Museum and they picked some up.
they went down to the Palo Alto Goodwill and picked up some Z series and
yeah. Well, I think
this is migration.
What's most exciting about this now? I know everything's going all right with the situation that currently is going on there, but in case things go south at IBM, I think JJ has a job in his future lined up. Like he can easily move over there. Talk about the COBOL.
Yeah.
So I think more
those
passive
mainframes ain't going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a good question. We need to figure out if there are mainframes running in the Google Cloud and how that's working out, or maybe they just have some really killer mainframe emulation stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just reading here. It does say like it will make your move easy from many mainframe technologies, including IBM Z and IBM.
It's a services play.
So yeah, no, I think you're. I could definitely see your skepticism is warranted. I think you're.
I could definitely see a blending of services and emulation, but I can't see them having and then in the building.
And then maybe like what you're saying, right? Like the Strangler load balancer thing, right? Where
absolutely.
You just are slowly moving traffic over.
You rub some Anthos on it, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exciting. Well, how about the other thing? What's this cloud workstations?
This cloud workstations, to me, it's table stakes, man. Everybody's got the cloud IDEs. I mean, Amazon bought somebody who does it. You got your Git pods. You got Google. GitHub has it. Azure has it. Everyone has cloud workstations. I mean, they've got branded IDEs. That's kind of cool, I guess. You can get yourself some JetBrains stuff.
Well, that was the one I guess I wanted you. I guess you answered the question, man. I thought it was interesting just from the point of view of like they were just emphasizing like, hey, you can just set up like JetBrains and IntelliJ and Visual Studio to just work. Essentially just work remotely, right? So take advantage of those. So configure IDE to basically, you're locally using the IDE, but it's all connected remotely. So it's sort of like kind of just some middle ground, like rather than trying to like build out a whole new, IDE that you access over the web. It's just like, no, use the exact same tools, configure them to do everything remotely. And it's like the experience could probably, now this is the part I don't know. It's like, if, the pitch is sort of like the experience, like will just kind of be like it is locally. Now, can't say that. Now I've done some stuff myself, not like this, but just sort of like using like a Docker, like, sort of a Docker server and then just like edit like kind of on your machine, but really use the Docker to run stuff. And it's like, that seems to work pretty well. And also like, I don't know, I just like the idea of like, no, we're not going, like, I didn't want to see another IDE. Like, and someone would be like, here's another IDE that you should move everything to. The fact that like, this was like, hey, we'll just use exactly what's there. That seemed pretty pragmatic as well.
It's pragmatic, but also it's kind of funny because they've got obviously a partnership with JetBrains to bring in all their IDs, but then they're like, we're going to use the OSS code. So instead of using Visual Studio Code, which is open source, they use the unbranded version of it, and they've got Vim, but no Emacs.
Well,
you did it for Emacs. Like, I guess, man, wouldn't you just like mount the files and then just connect via the shell?
I don't need them to worry about Emacs.
You don't even care, right? Like,
I don't even care. Yeah,
like people from Emacs
I just think it's
forever, right? Yeah,
I just think it's funny that they've got Vim, but.
Isn't Google's like development toolchain like famous for basically being like really fancy like VDI? Like when you get your developer workstation set
up. That's all this is.
Isn't it like you're like they somehow have figured out how to do development like over the network or something, which maybe it's not a big deal to figure out, but like that seems like it would be valuable as like, I mean, I guess if you just have figured out how to get like over the internet virtual desktop stuff to work well, that would be a good example of what we were talking about earlier. Is like, why don't you just fix the broken shit that exists already? And
like,
make that work.
This totally has that. You're inside a VPC. It's over. It's over a VPN. You've got access to. You can apply IAM rules on top of it. It's all locked down. You're in your environment, so it's safe for external users. I mean, there's definitely a market for this. Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing it as a concept. I'm just saying, like, everyone else already had it.
Plus Emacs, if you just mount a directory.
Nobody has Emacs, but you know what? Emacs users, we don't care.
That would be pretty amazing. I mean, is there any commercial integration or usage of Emacs, or like? I mean, I guess it's under
somebody
like
somewhere is like, there's some dude in a basement who's like, he's splitting time between supporting NTP and Emacs as a professional IDE, and some GCC extension, and he's making like $400,000 a year doing the dirty work nobody else cares about.
Yeah, because I guess because it's old school GPL, you couldn't really fork it and make money off of it.
You could totally do services.
But does the GPL license infect down to like doing like eLisp stuff? So like if I make like, I don't even remember what they're called in Emacs. If I make like
licensing,
if I make an Emacs plugin,
maybe.
Yeah, because even then, isn't eLisp like dynamically evaluated so it wouldn't trigger the static linking that's under GPL?
You've been away from Emacs for a while. You can now compile.
They use Perl now or something?
No, you can compile your eLisps for speed, and so the latest Emacs compiles that stuff, so it's a lot faster.
I mean, with the processors nowadays, like these eLisp people must have just been going crazy if they're worried about speed for like, I just can't imagine that like a technology from the late 80s is like, this is still operating pretty slow on these new chips. Like it must be blazingly fast.
Yeah, it's plenty fast.
Well, that dashes my dreams of building a solid multi-million-dollar business around eLisp.
You'll have to go back to making an Asana competitor using your name awareness.
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me, that's another example of just like, I mean, Trello is great, but like, do we need more of that? Like, it's just like you try to get people to use Trello and it just doesn't work out well. We should have just fixed Microsoft Project.
I've heard good things about Linear.
Well. Is Linear, is that, I don't even know what that is. Is that a different system of
We'll have to share that in the notes. Linear, a better way to build products.
Well, speaking of, paying attention to your cloud setups and how you're working there, I think you pointed to somewhere, Matt Ray. Well, it was from the platypus people, like a great notion of like, tell me if I got this right. But when it comes to cost, doing your cost analysis of cloud, there's two things I learned from this article. One was that you don't want to have a finance person do it, which I think don't want to have a finance person do it. Anyone in engineering would say, I don't even know what it is you're talking about. I agree. Like, I just don't want them involved in any decisions that involve my life. And to that point, and tell me if this is true, Matt Ray, what the platypus people were saying. It was the other one, not the one who does the funny videos. And he was saying basically, it's your developers have shitty architectures that are costing you a lot of money, and that's where never mind all the idle instances running. And this one time we did it, it only affected like 1% of costs, which I could see that would be true.
Right.
Well, it was more of a relative thing of like, compared to all the other costs you have, this one is small, right? Like, let's imagine we just took like $3 bills, Australian or American, and lit them on fire. Meanwhile, you've got this bonfire of several $100,000 bills over here, so don't worry about the $3 bills that are lit on fire.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. The article that you're talking about, it's why cloud finance is broken and ineffective by Mike Julian at the Duckbill Group. So he's the CEO. I think, or he and Corey are kind of the co-founder partners, whatever.
And so my immediate thought, Matt Ray, was like, this is what you're working on, right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, and I shared this link, and everyone was pretty much in agreement. A lot of the savings and cost usage are not going to come from like, you should have bought more reserved instances, or you had these inefficient you left this stuff running. I mean, yes, there's savings to be had there, but a lot of the day-to-day costs are just the way your application is architected. And if you're going to make large savings, the architecture of how you built your application needs to take advantage of more cost-effective built-in features of the cloud. So, the day-to-day inefficiencies are where the real savings are, not like, if we could just, you know, you can't, do a subscription plan to save your bacon. It's not gonna be the big bang.
Right. There's
So,
like there's no cures in the spreadsheets. Right. That's not gonna
well,
solve problems.
which
for you.
isn't to say like you definitely. I was with a customer earlier today who was spending $3 million a month, and it's like, you know what, their savings in that spreadsheet. Like, you could go and pay for your spreadsheet monkeys to their salaries based off of just working that $3 million a month. But the reason they're spending that much money is they have a couple of really large applications that have data consumption patterns that might not be efficient, or essentially it was like the way your application is architected is probably driving the majority of costs. And so architecture drives cost is the takeaway, and that's that's known, which is why most of us are talking about like, how do we make your applications more efficient.
Yeah. It seems like we're always trying to like make up for goofy developers. Application developers, like,
well, most developers don't care about this stuff. They're just like, hey, throw my code up there and let it rip. And and then later on, somebody needs to look at the actual cost of this and say, well, you're letting it rip on this service that's crazy expensive. Maybe we could re-architect it to do it this way, or
It does seem like we've talked about a couple of things, Google and Amazon, right? All these like developer experiences teams, and so I don't know. It feels like more and more people are at least looking at it. And you mentioned like
absolutely
a few times ago, like I don't know, cost camp or cost cutting camp, or right, so like it definitely seems like, hey, there's more focus now than ever. Like, hey, let's go back and either make what we're doing simpler, or at least look at like what tools we're using and make it cheaper. So.
Yeah, and we over at my day job at KubeCost, we announced like a SaaS of our product, and we also took the single installation product and said, anyone can use this for as many clusters as you want for free. So we're just saying like, hey, let's observe, reporting is commoditized. Let's make sure everyone can at least see this stuff, because then we can start moving on to like, the optimizations and, the conversations about how to save money. And that's more useful.
After like the whole DevOps thing, we're like, we got to get these developers to make like things more operations friendly. And then recently last year we had the whole DevSecOps things where these developers don't know how to like secure their applications. And now we've got this notion that these developers are writing their applications and they cost too much. I feel like the next stage is going to be like, we need a thought leader class. We need to go to the operations people and be like, look, just learn to program and get rid of these developers.
Right, get rid of the developers.
Yeah, all these problems are caused by developers.
It's just like there's a common thread in all of these issues for the past 20 years of supporting custom written software. And maybe we should, instead of the delicious layer of utilitarian fat around these precious application developers, maybe we just need to focus on replacing the tasty meat at the middle and figure out how to
how you really
stuff.
save money. You just don't run anything.
That's right. That could be that too. We'll go back to paper, like that Twilight Zone episode where the guy breaks his glasses once he's able to read everything. That's probably what will end up happening. That would be tragic. Now before we get towards the end here, our bureaucracy and recommendations, I think we should give ourselves the pleasure of dreaming next Monday, Matt Ray and Brandon. What's going to happen when we update our Mac OS operating system? Well, at least those of us,
yeah, not me.
those of us who are not working on fully corporate managed laptops that seem to lag behind. I might have to go unmanage one of my laptops to enjoy the experience here. But I think the iPad will be updated as well. So we can see what's going on.
Yeah, new
there.
iPads. You can go buy a new iPad now. They have some new ones out there. So
yes, I saw they released one that has they still have the good pencil on the Pro and the old pencil on the other ones, but then the old pencil switched over to a USB-C thing. And like on the one hand, it's like, well, you're trying to advance towards USB-C, but then on the other hand, it's like no one wins when it comes to like to like USB and
I think
and
the memory.
cables.
I think
everyone loses.
The memory on the iPads is always just Apple's attempt to just stick it to you. It's like you can have 64 or 256. What do most of us really need? 128, right? I feel like the same thing on the MacBooks. It's like you can have 256, which isn't really usable for anything for any long period of time, right? And it's like that's where it just feels like the NBA's they won, right? They're like, we're going to put this price point here, and everyone's going to pick the more expensive one. So we shall.
So
see.
I have been thinking now what they have in photo. I've been spending a lot of time with my photo library. First tip I want to tell people: if you find yourself like, so I wanted to migrate all my stuff to photos because I'm to Apple Photos because I'm trying to live the Apple lifestyle,
Defaults lifestyle, baby.
with some footnotes as people like to point out. But what I found out is that if you get to about like 65,000 photos in your library. Right. When you go to these tools where you want to pull in images from your library, it takes a long time to load. I don't know what they're doing, but like I go in to use like whatever Spark is called or Canva or something, and I have to sit there waiting to just pick one of the videos out. But there is some feature I think they'll have, which is finally, and there's a lot of Apple stuff like this. Finally, someone was like, "Hey, if you have set up a family, you might want to just share photos with each other, like that crazy company Google does with their Google Photos." Now, that will be fun, but my concern is the following. Like, I feel like, I don't think there's anything weird going on in the rest of my family's photos, as far as I can tell. But like, I've got 65,000 photos in there so far, and like, I feel like I'm going to share these photos, and Kim is going to look up and be like, why all of a sudden do I have 5,000 pictures of receipts from 2008 in my photo?
Gotta go in and clean that up.
Yeah, but
maybe some AI can fix that for you.
So like, is it? But I feel nervous about deleting these receipts. Like, well,
you can keep them in your own library. You can. I guess it just depends on how much work you want to do. It sounds like you're either gonna. Well, I think one you'll have to determine. Like maybe Kim. Like, think about this. Like, who seeds the family photo album? Like, that's your first question, right? It's like maybe it would be better to go the other way. Like Kim you gotta
beat the rush.
Maybe Kim has all the family photos, and then you sort of just add to it over time because everyone can maintain their own library as well. But like there is going to be the basically the administrator, like who's the master library. So that's your first question.
I see.
I agree with you. I don't know. You talk about not wanting to go first, right? This seems like the Matt Ray trademark late adopter strategy here. It's like I want to hear 50 of my friends have gone through the migration to family photos and tell me like what works and what doesn't. I definitely don't want to be the first out of the gate on this.
Yeah. Well, I'm also hoping that there's going to be a surprise reveal that in Apple Notes you can add your own custom background, which I think that would be great. Or just a simple feature that app by app you can decide to use dark mode or not. That would be fun.
Well, I feel like when this is coming out, maybe Matt, I kind of thought I'd ask you. It's like because did you finally upgrade? You're on Monterey, right? Because
I'm on Monterey. Yeah.
Okay.
So I waited till the second or third release of it, I guess.
Before you got it. So I was just thinking, and I had a hard time coming up with this either. I was like, can you name a feature on Monterey that you're like, I'm really happy I have it. Like I had a difficult time coming up with anything that was. I know there are tons of stuff here, but it doesn't. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like it doesn't. After a year, it's very hard to point back to anything. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the Ventura. I see that they have that camera, iPhone camera thing, but. I've got camo, so they sure like that. So I don't know. I'm maybe the photo sharing stuff if I notice it. Because I've got that too, but I don't know. Yeah,
there's nothing you're dying for, basically. Right?
There's nothing I'm dying for.
The controversy I've read about seems to be, I guess they've made a lot of changes to system settings. So I don't know. People have been very harsh. Our system. What is it? It's system preferences and the Mac app system preferences that people have been very harsh. They feel like it is a huge change.
I have MacBook Airs in my family that will not be supported by Ventura. So they're dropping off the support schedule.
Oh no. The legacy migration starts for the Matt Ray family.
Yep.
Well, speaking of the legacy migration, do we have any bureaucracy this episode, Brandon?
Just a couple things here. One, I sent JC stickers in California, so appreciate him writing in. And if you'd like a sticker, all you have to do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And as always, if you want to see the live feed of this, that's got all the pre-show and the post-show and a lot of unedited stuff in it, you can always check us out on the YouTube channel. The link for that episode will be in the show notes as well.
Well, there's also, as always, many conferences coming up. Matt Ray is going to be at KubeCon North America in Detroit, which it turns out
stickers.
Oh, he'll have stickers, and it's also very close to Canada. I
could see it from my house.
That's right. And then we obviously, as listeners know, have Spring One platform coming up December 6th to 8th. That's going to be in San Francisco. I think we, as of today, we have the full schedule posted, so you can go check out sessions. There's all sorts of great talks there. I was just seeing one from one of the people we work with at the U.S. Army, where they're going to talk about how they secure everything. And I was thinking, if the U.S. Army doesn't need to secure it, you probably don't need to worry about it either. So, but if you want to go there, you can go to spring1.io and look through the sessions. And when you register, you can use the code COTE200 to get, $200 off. And there's that conference coming up January 16th to the 19th. I think they still have their call for papers or whatever they want to call it set up. And then there will be the Cloud Native Security Con, all in camel case. That'll be in North America, in Seattle, which is in North America. I don't know. They probably, if they squint, can see Canada from there. That's going to be February 1st to 2nd. So you should check that out as well. And, also, if you want to get the show notes, we went over all sorts of stuff we didn't talk about. If you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/382, you can get on our Slack, where there's a nice, lively community where we talk about all these things during the week. And you can also go to the show notes and see things that we didn't talk about. All sorts of other fun stuff there. Now, Brandon, what do you have to recommend this episode?
All right. Well, it's F1 week here in Austin, so I will give everybody that's visiting from outside the United States. Here's my my food recommendation. You should go to Interstellar Barbecue, which is it's outside of the downtown, so you have to be a little bit of a drive. You can get all the barbecue. It's all good, of course. But the thing I wanted to recommend was the peach tea pork belly when it's available. So it's not every day. I think it's mostly on the weekends. But of course, you have the brisket and all of that. That's always good. But I really like this pork belly stuff that they make. And so for those really in the know, Interstellar Barbecue used to be Noble Pig. So I feel like they've got some expertise if you will, in the pig. So check that out if you're looking for something to eat, or if you're just in Austin in general. And then also last week, I promised that I would give you my 1-minute review of Coin, a founder story. This is the movie that was about Brian Armstrong, and I'm going to give it 1.5 stars out of 5. So there you go. I thought it was. I'll give it the movie really well made, just from a perspective of wow, it's cool to see a professional Hollywood movie.
That film
made.
really stayed intact.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see because it's about such a esoteric subject. I was wow, this is it's a professional film. So that part was good. That was, but everything else was just it was just basically his stories. Didn't go into any of kind of the, details around Bitcoin, and more importantly, kind of the questions, right? And it's just sort of just tells kind of the typical story that I think Brian Armstrong wants you to believe, right? Sort of hey, he's, he went out, he had this idea, wants to help people to transfer money, and it just doesn't it's just very one-sided. And then your friend Scott Galloway makes a very brief appearance into it as well, Cote, but it's just a very one-sided film, just kind of very forgettable. So definitely would, only if you want to just see something that you probably already know about, check it out. But other than that, most people probably should skip it.
Well, I like this is the third time. It sounds like this summer they're going to do my favorite way of introducing new software, which is to fix shit that already exists. And if all that stuff goes through to actually set up transfers in the States, just make them European transfers, that would be great. That would be the best, maybe 2-page requirements document from the Federal Reserve. It would just say a bunch of text, and it would say, make transfers work like they do in Europe. Done. And then that gets sent out. Can you imagine all the consultancy firms and lawyers who would have to interpret that and the ways it would come out? That would be amazing. Well, how about yourself, Matt Ray? What do you have to recommend?
So my recommendation is it's kind of a pre-recommendation. There's a series coming to Amazon called The Peripheral. It's based off the William Gibson novel. Um, it was one of my favorite William Gibson novels of the last 20 years or whatever. I mean, he's generally pretty good, but I think The Peripheral and Agency, the sequel, were some of his best work in a long time. And everything I've seen, I'm excited about this, so I'm gonna give it a pre-recommendation. I bet it's gonna be good.
Maybe I should go back and try to read that again.
Peripheral was really good. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, some of the other ones get kind of slow and bogged down, but Agency like kicks it into next gear. So
Kicks it into next gear. Well, I have
and the finale is coming soon.
yeah, the dog loves it. Maybe the dog's like, more space carpets. Is what...
No space carpets, Cote. It's got the things that you like.
Oh,
Bureaucracy.
That's good. I like that. Yes, bureaucracy. the gripping tales of William Gibson's description of bureaucracy must be great. And staring into the static gray ceiling of my my filing folders. Well, I have a re-emphasis recommendation, and then another one, kind of follow up to last week. So I've been cooking those Oklahoma style burgers that Jay Kinsey Alt Lopez was going over, where you basically cook a kind of like a smash burger with a bunch of onions on one side. And I have to say, I probably need to stop making them because they're very unhealthy and they make me feel sick afterwards. But boy, they're sure delicious eating. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. You can watch this video of him making them. They're actually extremely quick to make and very delicious. The only part is like cleaning up after them, but whatever. That's, you got your deal there. But so I had forgotten about this. To my discredit, but we talked a lot about platform engineering last week, and I remembered that we here at VMware licensed a Gartner paper from February that's basically all about platform engineering, and it's pretty thorough and good. And it's called Innovation Insight for Internal Development Portals. And this is the one that in a Humanitech blog post from 2 weeks ago they refer to this paper and that you should go check it out, but then they didn't license it. And so I went searching around for it, and I saw that we did. But it's a good. This is like from the era of I'm forming together my history of platform engineering over the past year, and I think this is from the first. Let's call it the 0.8 version of platform engineering, which is basically like, as they would call it, internal development platforms. And it was kind of like, we should do cool backstage stuff. And like, managing the intranet for developers, which is expanded into all the past stuff as well. But there's a pretty good Gartner overview of the capabilities, roles, and responsibilities, all the kind of definition of what it looks like. And you can get it for free with the link that I'll put in here. Or you can search for it yourself and find where you can get it for free. But it's if you're interested in platform engineering, you should check it out. And obviously, you're probably interested in that because you've listened this far to Software Defined Talk, which is a great podcast. You should subscribe to it on all devices that you have, whether they can run Ventura or not. Doesn't really matter. And all of your children's, your enemies, your spouses. If you just meet someone, just grab their phone and put it at their face and then subscribe to this so you can download it. But if you want to get the show notes for this episode, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/382. And I don't know. We'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
No, Matt, you're not going to do your thing?
I was muted. Oh, no. Bye-bye.
Do it. Hold on. Do it.
Bye-bye.
All right. We'll get it in there. We're trying to...
I said it and just like, okay, yeah. All right, here we go.
Well, then you were muted earlier, right? Like I think I tried to give it to you, and I didn't see it in the chat till afterwards. Like you were like dealing with your son or something. So I'll let it. Yeah, I can be that. That's easy. Those are easy edits. We'll fix those. So
good. Sorry.
Just a little highlight. Apple X done.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
All right, streamers, don't have time to chat today too much. So appreciate, especially Brian and Michael. Always on. Always good to see you. Hopefully. You will be on next week. We'll try to stream a little earlier. Maybe give us some more time to talk after the show. So, all right. Bye, streams.
All right.
Bye, streamers.
Bye.